Hey everybody, welcome back to CAF's Heroes of Sport. My name is Bob Babbitt, co-founder of the Challenge Athletes Foundation. Every week, I get to interview some amazing challenged athletes. This week is no different. Our guest is the six-time Paralympic gold medalist and actually won the first ever gold medal in the sport of para triathlon for the U.S., Mr. Brad Snyder, and his guide, Mr. Greg Billington. Brad, let's start with you. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Bob. Thanks for having us on the podcast today.
Well, you know, it's always a treat, and especially when we can see that you've got your own street. Where is the Bradley Snyder Street? Where is that?
Well, it's more or less in my imagination. After the games in London 2012, the city of St. Petersburg, where I'm from, where I trained for a long time, notionally named a street and a day after me. I think it was in September of 2012, I got to go down to the courthouse and they read me into the state or the city legislature, and they gave me the street sign. It doesn't actually exist in St. Petersburg anywhere, but in the city legislature, there's officially Brad Snyder Day and a Brad Snyder Street read into the record, which is really cool for us.
Really?
And St. Pete's I love the city of St. Pete, and they gave me a key to the city, and I have that on my wall that you can't see out of frame, but it was pretty cool.
So captain of the swim team, and then September 2011, you're in Afghanistan. And, you know, when somebody's job is explosive ordnance disposal officer, that seems like the type of job that you want other people to have. That's a tough job, man.
I'm that guy.
You're that guy.
I'm the guy who does it so nobody else has to.
Oh my God. That is, and that you went to the Naval Academy, captain of the swim team, lieutenant in the Navy, in Afghanistan as explosive ordnance disposal officer. So September 2011, what happened?
So I was part of an assault team. We were a small tactical group trying to do what the right thing in Afghanistan, trying to make the country safe and democratic and secure and all of that. And we were working very closely with Afghan special forces, trying to teach them how to conduct, counterinsurgency operations in the area of Kandahar, Afghanistan. And by 2011, the Taliban and the insurgency there had figured out that a great way to wage war against us was to utilize IEDs, improvised explosive devices. They're very cheap. You don't need a lot of manpower. You can lay them in the ground, and it makes our job as the U.S. and our coalition forces and the Afghan security forces of Afghanistan, the Afghan security forces of Afghanistan, the Afghan security forces, period. It makes our job very, very difficult. Right. So people like me with my subject matter expertise, explosive mitigation, were embedded with most assault teams and really any kind of entity doing security operations in Afghanistan to do our best to mitigate that explosive threat. So what that looked like for me on a day-to-day basis was utilizing a metal detector to kind of walk out in front of our foot patrols to make sure that we were avoiding, where possible, these improvised explosive devices. I kind of make the joke that we've all seen that guy at the beach waving a metal detector looking for gold watches. That was very similar to my job in Afghanistan, but instead of watches, I was looking for IEDs. Unfortunately, on the morning of September 7th, 2011, I missed one. It was a very chaotic situation. We actually had already had one blow up. We had two Afghan special forces guys who were really badly hurt in one blast, and I was leading an effort to try to help get them to a helicopter where they could go to the hospital. And I stepped on another IED that was located very close to the first blast. It was about a 40-pound explosion. So by virtue of comparison, a hand grenade is about a quarter pound. So a rather large explosion I was inside of. So it was in essence a miracle I was able to walk away. I found out a few weeks later that while I would make entire physical recovery, basically nothing other than my eyes would be long damaged in the long term. Unfortunately, I would not. My eyes wouldn't recover at all. I would be blind as a result. So it was kind of a good news, bad news. Good news is everything is fine except for your eyes. The bad news is your eyes will never come back. So that was a difficult reality, but sports played a really important role in that particular moment in my life. Kind of giving me a mechanism by which I could start to kind of redefine myself and figure out who I was going to be from that moment forward without the use of my vision.
So here you are. Obviously, you were a top level swimmer beforehand. How quick did you make the transition to go, oh, wait a second, there's a thing called the Paralympics, and why don't I go for that?
It's funny. It wasn't me, really. I was probably one of the last people to really buy into that. I trained with a guy when I was down in St. Pete, Florida. I trained with who I believe is the best American male swimmer to never make the Olympic team. His name's Robert Margalis. I trained with him for a long time. He actually dropped out of high school in the late 90s to try to pursue his Olympic dream of making Team USA and going to the Olympics. He tried in 2000, 2004, 2008, and 2012. Came in third a number of times and never ended up making the team. And I trained in the same lane with him, stroke for stroke, for a number of years. And so I recognize how difficult it is, what a miracle it is in some cases to make the Olympic team and compete for Team USA. So when I was injured, I got into sports really as just a way to return to my normal habits. I actually went back to my old pool in St. Pete with my coach, Fred Lewis, and was just swimming on a Saturday just for the sheer joy of swimming laps. I just wanted to swim laps. I just wanted people to see me not as a wounded vet, or I didn't want them to wrestle with how difficult it would be for me to live blind. I just wanted them to see me as the way I always was, just a swimmer on Saturday morning, swimming back and forth. That was all. Pretty quickly, though, there was a sense of urgency, and there were a lot of people sort of around me saying, you could be really good at this. You were good, able-bodied. You're probably going to be really good as a blind swimmer. And you realize how lucky you are to be injured in a Paralympic year. Like, the Paralympics are coming up. Like, you got to figure that out. And I slowly acquiesced, kind of iteration by iteration. Like, maybe I'll swim a meet. Let's see how that goes. Oh, I made a cut. Well, let's go to the nationals and let's see how that goes. Oh, I did well at the nationals. I was number 5. Well, let's go to the Paralympic trials. And just like one thing led to another. And it wasn't really until I was in London competing in the Paralympics that I was kind of started to wake up and say, wow, I'm here and this is incredible. And I'm seated first. And, maybe gold can happen. So I was really kind of the last one. I didn't want to, I guess it was expectation management. Like, I didn't want to start to believe in this magical dream that would come undone. It wasn't really until it was happening that I started to be the believer, I guess.
Well, so weren't you the flag bearer for the
Paralympics? I was, yeah, but that was after the fact. That was sort of after gold in the 100 and the 400.
Yeah.
My story resonated with Team USA, and they nominated me as flag bearer, which was a really incredible honor. By that point, I had started to realize that this is real. But that was also very surreal because, one, the closing ceremonies is an incredible thing, and like Chris Martin and Rihanna walked by me as I was out on the field with that flag, and that was pretty cool. And then I actually got to come back and give that flag to President Obama, which was also a really incredible moment. And I would not, actually, I don't even know for sure that it happened. I think I was standing next to him, and allegedly there's a photo of it in my office here, but being blind, it could have been an imposter. It could have been someone else, I guess. But it felt incredibly surreal to be able to go through those experiences and kind of celebrate that achievement with the president of the US.
So it was exactly 1 year from when you lost your eyes and lost your vision in the IED to you winning was it the 400 free?
400 free. Yep.
Exactly 1 year from the date. To me, that's such an important part of the story, because we see so many guys who get injured and that spiraling depression just sits there for years before, sometimes that never goes away. But you basically within 1 year were at the top of the totem pole as a Paralympic champion and flag bearer. That's pretty amazing.
I think it carries an important message. I think, in the vet community and the wounded warrior community, we all call those things our Alive Day. On September 7, 2011, sustained a 40-pound blast essentially to the face. And immediately afterward, I actually thought that I had died. In many respects, maybe I should have died. If I was maybe 3 inches in a different direction, I might have died from that injury. But instead, I was able to come back. And like you said, a year later, I was able to do something on the other end of the spectrum. Instead of the negativity associated with a traumatic injury, I was actually competing for Team USA in the Paralympics. And so in the vet community, we call it our Alive Day. It's a way to look back and reflect on saying, I'm really grateful to be alive. I recognize that there's a chance that I might not have been alive. And you look at all the things that you have, and you can't help but be grateful for everything that you have, as opposed to what you might not have had had your injury gone a different direction. So I every day am eternally grateful that I came back from Afghanistan with my life. And, I think that's, in some sense, that perspective is what has allowed me and enabled me to succeed, in places like the Paralympics, is the fact that I just day one, I'm very grateful to still be alive.
So 2012, 2 golds and a silver in London, 2016, 3 golds and a silver in Rio. And really, you could have stayed on and gone to 2020 and swam again, but something told you that maybe I'll become a para triathlete. And it's at some point, I mean, you were obviously doing well, but going into Tokyo, you weren't the favorite. And you and Greg Billington, who was an Olympian in triathlon in 2016, connected in June of 2021, 2020? When did you guys connect, Greg?
We connected very end of May, right around my birthday, actually. That was the first day I got to meet Brad. It was the best birthday present I could have asked for, but got to go fly out to Jersey, and we were prepping for a race actually the next weekend. So very limited time to get ready, but yeah, incredible weekend to get to start working together, but not much time to prepare for qualification or for Tokyo. And it's kind of a race from there to get ready and be able to race really well.
So you think about it, Brad and Greg, if the Paralympics had been held as scheduled in 2020, you guys probably would not have been racing together?
Yeah, it's very likely. That was definitely not the plan. The 2020 season hadn't even started yet when COVID really took hold. So I don't think any of us really had a good firm idea of how things were going to go. But yeah, Greg and I didn't connect till well into 2021. So it's safe to say that we wouldn't have partnered. And I don't know that I'm certain that we wouldn't have enjoyed that level of success. So I think that was kind of the mark of this shift from 2020 to 2021. Many athletes looked at that and said, well, we've got an additional year. For anybody who abides by the principle of control what you can control and let go what you can't, you got to turn that year into an advantage. And I'm really thankful, Greg, I was able to work with Greg, and through that partnership, we were able to do exactly that, turn that year into an advantage.
So Greg, talk a little bit about it's different racing on your own, right? When you're racing on your own, you're thinking about you, period. When you are racing with a visually impaired athlete, he is everything. And you have to acquiesce to everything that he needs for both of you to do well. Talk a little about that transition, because when you're a pro triathlete, it's all about you. And now when you're a guide, it ain't about you anymore. How hard was that for you?
For me, it was incredible to be able to share in awesome race results, to be able to share progress, to be able to get out there and work, not just so that I could have a good race, but so that we could have a good race together. And yeah, absolutely. I came out there to make sure that Brad could have his best day possible, right? But I definitely felt, and Brad was awesome about this, it felt like we were a team out there, right? I had to get in shape. I had to know what I needed to do. And Brad also, had to obviously get in his best shape and peak shape ever. But what made Tokyo special is you could have 2 phenomenal athletes who are not a team, and they're not going to race as well together as 2 people who are a team and who've bonded well and know how to swim well together. We were practically the same athletes the first time we worked together, when we raced in June in Leeds, and we had a horrible race there compared to the athletes that we were in Tokyo. Obviously, we were marginally fitter, but our performance was substantially better, incomparable to Leeds, because we knew how to work together a lot better. We developed better vocabulary so we could talk to each other better. We were smoother together on the bike. We knew each other way better. We could swim together way more efficiently than we could at the beginning. And so for me, it was so much more fun to develop in a way that was not, more focused on physical. It was focused on teamwork and partnership and developing a fantastic bond. And that's what made the Tokyo experience almost undoubtedly the best moment of my life.
So, yeah, go ahead, Brad.
Oh no, I'm just, that was just a reaction. That's incredible.
So when I was doing the Facebook Live coverage of the event, and everybody was talking, Dave Ellis, Luke Pollard, the Brits, they're going to stomp everybody, right? That was what everybody was talking about. But as we all know, that it doesn't matter how fit you are. Sometimes you have mechanical things happen, and it's all, your resume doesn't win the race. You win the race. So when you guys, it looked like you just had the perfect day. You guys went like 101. You killed it. And you had like a 147 lead, I think, going into the run. You had some great teams behind you. One of the teams, the Spanish team that Hector Catala La Para ran 17:45 for 5K. Could you feel them coming? I mean, you're leading. I'm guessing you had never had a race where you guys were leading wire to wire.
We couldn't feel them coming. We were just out there focusing on the finish line, getting ready to win. Didn't even know what else was going on. Those guys were so far back. No. Yeah, we definitely were watching, making sure that we kept an eye on splits. And Brad's obviously a unparalleled swimmer out there, so we kind of knew that was going to be our strategy, and we were thrilled to come out of the water with a big lead, but knew that all the work was going to come in kind of holding that lead on the bike and then executing a fantastic run. I don't know, Brad, if there's something I didn't cover there.
No, you spot on. And Bob, you're right. Like, it ended up working out the way we would have dreamed for it to happen to work. Like, if you'd sketched it up on the board, that's the way we wanted it to work. For us, going off first as a B1, we kind of have to race that way. There's not a better way for us to do it, especially knowing that the course in Tokyo, with the bike course set up the way that it was and the race run the way that it was, we knew that there was going to be traffic, and we kind of wanted to turn that into an advantage. If we're out well ahead, that becomes advantageous for us, as opposed to getting bogged down and trying to make up ground while you're running by or blowing by other tandem teams. So we wanted to get out ahead. We knew we could. My strength is supposed to be swimming, and I think that's what made my transition into the sport really frustrating. Was coming from being a multiple gold medalist in pool swimming, I was not seeing that advantage in the water in the first couple years of my triathlon career, and that was frustrating for me. But we knew that we have that potential. We just have to swim, like Greg said, stroke for stroke. We have to work together. We have to, Greg matches my cadence in the water, which is really incredible. And that makes it smoother, and it makes the turns easier, and it makes it more efficient. So that's exactly how we had drawn it up. Now that gap, that 147, it looks big, but we knew we needed that against Hector and Dave, who are really exceptional runners. And Dave ought to know that we were ready for him. So, mechanical aside, that's what we needed against him. Now, were he in that field, it was likely going to come down to more of a blue carpet finish, and we were ready for that. But thankfully, we got to kind of cruise into the finish, which was a lot more fun, I think. So it worked out incredible.
So Greg is a guy who made the Olympic team in Rio. And so Brad's had this before. He's been on the top of the podium. He's heard his anthem and numerous times, right? 2012, 2016, it never gets old. It's always special. But for you, yeah, right? But for you, Greg, being on the top of the podium, and the guy gets the same medal as the athlete. That's what I love about it. How did it feel for you, Greg, to be on the top of the podium with the anthem and the flag?
I mean, it started obviously when we crossed the finish line. I think if anybody rewatches it, they can see me kind of completely lose it after we crossed the finish line and won. But I mean, starting from there, there's obviously multiple levels of emotion. I mean, first one is just relief, right? I didn't completely screw up Brad's day. Brad was able to execute.
That's a lot of pressure.
And I stayed out of the way and I let him run fast and we got to bike well. So that's it. And then the second piece is, like I said, there's a lot of work that goes into those moments, a lot of teamwork. And when you can share that moment of victory and then also share it not just with Brad, but after the finish line, right, we got interviewed and we got to hear some of the reactions of our family and supporters back home. And I mean, you just remember, and it comes in waves, all the people who supported you kind of along the way to get there. And then you can kind of combine all that into, oh, well, there's actually the whole American flag. And I have a gold medal around me because I represented an incredible country and had so many fantastic opportunities growing up. There's no other moment that has yet in my life matched that, right? And then to be able to share that with Brad and to have done that in support of Brad and have the friendship that we did because of the work we did together. Yeah, hard to articulate in words.
And Brad, so now what? you guys, will you be, we're only 3 years away from Paris, right? So I'm assuming that you guys can stay together and go for another one.
Yeah, I think you line things up the way that you just did. I mean, we work May, June, July, August, September. So really 5 months of working together with that kind of an outcome. It leads you to wonder, like, what can we achieve if we line up a few years of this? And just like, I think we're all kind of watching Tom Brady right now, or watching, you remember the Brett Favre thing. It's like, so long as it's still fun, why would we not? So I think it was harder through COVID, and there was all kinds of just uncertainty through 2020. And all of us have faced a lot of stress and a lot of adversity, but we made it, and we made it all work throughout all of that stuff. So why not keep going? And like Greg said, the finish of that race was the most fun I've ever had in sports, period, across a couple different dimensions. And that was just incredible. So when someone throws a microphone in your face afterward and says, so is this it? Or are you guys going to go to Paris? Of course you're going to say, absolutely. So I think that's on our horizon. Coming to your neck of the woods there, Bob, the Olympics and Paralympics will be coming to LA in 28. So I say all that to say, Paris sounds great, LA sounds great, but I think for now, we're going to take it race by race. And so long as it's still fun, and so long as we can point to areas on the race course that we can do things better, be more efficient, learn a new technique that'll get us an edge over our competition, we want to keep going. And I'm super excited about that.
Love it. Hey, thanks you guys for taking time to join me. And Brad, has CAF been part of your journey?
Of course. Yeah, I was going to say something that Greg and I ought to do together, I think, is that $1 Million Challenge. I had the opportunity to do that, the tail end of it a few years ago, and that was incretible. So I think that would be right up Greg's alley. I don't know if Greg knows what that is, but we'll talk about it, and we'll get out on the road with you guys one of these years.
7 days of cycling, 620 miles, San Francisco to San Diego. Greg, you would love it. Full 5-star. Every day you finish your ride, your mechanic is waiting to tune up your bike. Your masseuse is waiting to give you a massage, and your bags are in your 5-star hotel room, and the mints are already in place on the pillow. It is a great week.
You had me at bike mechanic, Bob. You had me at bike mechanic.
Hey, boys, congratulations. That was the coolest thing ever to watch that and actually be able to call it. And congratulations on everything you're doing. And I can't wait to hopefully see you at our $1 Million Challenge.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank
Bob.
you, Bob.
A pleasure. Take care, you guys. Again, Heroes of Sport. My name is Bob Babbitt. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. See ya.